This is Devendra Fadnavis, Maharashtra's Chief Minister and senior leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party. And this is where he comes from, Nagpur, the home and headquarters of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh or RSS. For 54-year-old Devendra Fadnavis, Nagpur is where it all began. He became an elected corporator at the age of 22. He then went on to become Nagpur's youngest mayor at the age of 27, also the second youngest in India's history. He then went on to become an MLA in the late 1990s and eventually went on to become the three-time Chief Minister of Maharashtra. Now, Fadnavis has risen through the ranks in the BJP with the blessings of the Sangh, of course. Now, Fadnavis, a member of the RSS right from his early days, is seen as a favourite among the organization's leadership. Now, currently, Nagpur prides itself on two prominent BJP leaders, Devendra Fadnavis and Union Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari. Now, since 1999 till about 2009, Devendra Fadnavis was an MLA from Nagpur West constituency. After the delimitation exercise in 2009, a new seat came into being, and that is where Fadnavis maintains his hold till date. That is Nagpur Southwest. Since 2009, Fadnavis has always won this seat, garnering more than 50% of the vote share. But in 2024, there was a notable change in his constituency. Addition of more than 29,000 voters in just 6 months and a few thousand voters with no addresses. This has raised eyebrows and also set off a political row, with Lok Sabha LOP Rahul Gandhi calling this voter theft. Hello and welcome, I'm Shubham Chauhan. Let's get started. In 6 months, Fadnavis' seat added 29,219 voters. Poll staff claim lapses. That is the headline of a detailed report published by Sumedha Mittal of News Laundry and former Professor Vishal Vibhav. The data and information we'll cite in this video is thanks to them. Now let's look at what this story reveals. First, about 162 voters were added every day in Devendra Fadnavis' constituency of Nagpur Southwest. Now, this addition was in 6 months between the 2024 Lok Sabha and the 2024 Assembly election in the state of Maharashtra. In the run-up to the 2019 Lok Sabha polls, 32,822 voters were added to this particular Assembly constituency. Now it has come down slightly and stands at 29,219. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong or suspicious about new voters getting added in the voter list. But the concerning bit is what happens next. You see, the Election Commission of India has set a threshold when it comes to registering new voters. In case that threshold is crossed, the Election Commission's team would begin checks on ground just to make sure that the spike is normal and that enough verification is done on ground to corroborate the same. This threshold, as per the EC guidelines, is set at 4%. So in case a constituency sees more than 4% new voters being added in the electoral roll, mandatory checks by the EC would kick in. In Devendra Fadnavis' case or his constituency, there was an 8% rise in new voters' registration, double the threshold set by the Election Commission. So there were 8% more additions in the electoral roll of Nagpur Southwest. So did the Election Commission do the mandatory checks as per their guideline? News Laundry's report says no. The portal spoke to local polling staff in some of the areas that saw the highest rates of additions. They said that it doesn't appear that checks were done. In fact, the News Laundry report dissects the data further, and here's where things start becoming interesting. Out of the 378 booths in the constituency, 263 booths saw a jump of over 4% new addition. In 26 booths, there was a rise of more than 20% in the electorate, and in 4 booths, this figure was over 40%. And you can see a more detailed graphic in this regard on your screen right now. This shows the extent of voter additions in different polling stations in Nagpur Southwest. It also shows how many did BJP's Fadnavis win and how many did his rival, Congress's Praful Patil, win. Now let's come to the role of the Election Commission of India. You see, updating voter rolls in any constituency is a very important exercise in the larger scheme of things. It is done periodically by the Election Commission of India. For that, the EC has an entire hierarchy and mechanism in place. It starts with the Chief Election Officer of the state, who's right at the top, and goes all the way down to the booth level officer. Now, the BLOs usually comprise Anganwadi workers, Panchayat secretaries, or primary school teachers. Now, each person in this hierarchy of the EC is accountable, and their work, that includes voter deletion and addition, monitoring all of this, has to be checked by his or her superior. That is what the EC rules say, at least. Now, here's what the EC guidelines say in case of additions of more than 4%, like we saw in Fadnavis' constituency. the AEROs or Assistant Electoral Registration Officers have to conduct field checks on 1% of these editions. Their bosses, who are the EROs or Electoral Registration Officers, have to ensure field verifications are done properly and are also expected to carry out field verifications themselves wherever necessary. Now, News Laundry spoke to over a dozen BLOs who had seen huge spikes in their respective areas to understand what exactly happened. And here's what one BLO told the news portal. This time, the district election office had received applications from over 300 voters. I have not signed the application form of the new voters. I have only registered 8 to 10 new voters. Only the district officer could answer that. On the polling day, I was shocked to see voters that I had never seen or even heard of turning up for voting. But on that day, it is not the BLO's job to verify voters before letting them vote. A couple of other BLOs were quoted saying they had trouble verifying the addresses of some names given in the list that they were handed by the district office. Some quoted in the story said they could only verify a few voters out of the hundreds assigned to them in that particular list. And they added that the necessary feedback was given to their superiors, whatever it was. The story mentions Maya. She is a supervisor of a BLO who accepted that the addition of voters were high compared to previous elections. A probable reason Maya attributes is that the State Election Commission had run campaigns encouraging students to register themselves as voter ahead of the assembly election. Another supervisor hung up the call when News Laundry asked him whether he conducted his ground checks to verify the BLO's additions. So clearly something doesn't add up. The other big finding that the story has revealed is that the number of voters without addresses in the constituency. A check on 50 booths in Nagpur Southwest revealed that there were at least 4,393 voters with blank address columns, no address mentioned whatsoever. The report mentions that booth number 107, for instance, has 290 voters or 21% with untraceable addresses. Now this raises eyebrows because usually one needs to show an address proof while applying for a voter ID to show that they live in that particular constituency. In case someone doesn't have a proper address, the report says that BLOs mention a tentative address after doing a thorough field verification. The Election Commission on its part has denied any sort of malpractice in the Maharashtra election. On the spike in voter addition, they say it is a natural progression and any sort of increase or decrease in voters is normal due to migration and other factors. On voters with no addresses, the EC told News Laundry that they register voters if they match the basic criteria of voting in India, like being an Indian citizen, being over 18 years of age, and all of this is done after ground level verification by their BLOs is what the EC's response was. Now on to the political reactions. Congress MP and Lok Sabha LOP Rahul Gandhi tweeted this afternoon that these weren't anomalies. The findings in the News Laundry report weren't just random anomalies. He said that this is vote theft and EC's cover-up is a confession. Rahul Gandhi demanded the immediate release of machine-readable digital voter rolls and CCTV footage. Now remember, Rahul Gandhi had written an opinion piece for the Indian Express a couple of weeks back where he claimed that the Maharashtra elections were a case of match fixing. He has listed his own reasons and he's backed it with EC's data as to why he believes that. And we had done a video on that Maharashtra fixing bit, so do take a look at it. In fact, as we record this, news agency ANI reported citing sources that the EC has invited Rahul Gandhi to discuss the allegations he has leveled. The poll body has reportedly written to the Congress MP in this regard, while also reiterating that the elections were free and fair. Now, Devendra Fadnavis, the Maharashtra Chief Minister, hit back at Rahul Gandhi, who had shared the findings by News Laundry. He said, that is, Fadnavis said, that he in fact cited examples of other assembly constituencies where the voter addition hike was more than 4%. And it was the opposition that had won these seats. Now, Fadnavis cited Nagpur West, where the new additions went up by 7% is what he says. And in that constituency, Congress candidate Vikas Thakre had won. In Nagpur North, this addition was 7% is what Fadnavis says. There, Congress leader Nitin Raut had won the election. Similarly, in Pune district, Vadgaon city, voters addition went up by 10% and NCP Sharad Pawar faction candidate Babu Saheb Pathare had won. In Malad West in Mumbai, Fadnavis said this figure went up by 11%, where Congress's Aslam Sheikh had won. In Mumbai, it went up by 9%, where NCP Sharad Pawar candidate Jitendra Awad had won. Now, Devendra Fadnavis taunted Rahul Gandhi for not having moved on from the setback his party and the opposition received in the Vidhan Sabha elections. But a detailed, public, clear, reasonable an official clarification and answers from the EC that is already muddled with so many allegations still remains as far as how did these anomalies and these findings that the News Laundry report puts out take place, like many have been asking for days and weeks now. That's all we have for this report. Thanks for watching.